obviously it's the same weather pattern, and it's a weather pattern which instinctively people felt would favour reds more than whites. And the reds are not completely consistent, that's never the case, but there's a pretty good consistency at a very high level of the quality of the reds. They've got the structure and the weight and the concentration, but they've also got a juiciness of the fruit. So very glibly, I've been saying they've got concentration of 2005, they've got the juiciness of 2010, so 5 plus 10 equals 15, so very convenient. And what I think will happen is that in another couple of years, the wines will seem to be almost alarmingly sort of rich and ripe. And then a few years after that, the natural structure which is in these wines will come back and everything will go back into focus. But I bet there will be a moment of doubt at some point in the future. The whites, here are the parallel I draw is 2009, which remains an absolute favourite of mine for white wines from Burgundy as long as you picked early. And most people do not like this vintage because the majority of producers didn't pick early enough. And in 2015, they did. So instead of only about 10 to 20% getting it right, as was the case in 09, it's 80% that got it right in 2015. And I'm pretty impressed with the wines, I must say. Does it destabilize Burgundy? Does it send panic signals? I don't really think so. There have been a few others in recent years, but not many. It's 1 or 2 big domains a year. There probably will be 1 or 2 more. And at least we would rather it was happening for reasons of abundance of success than what happened in the 1930s, when almost all the grape vineyards of the Côte de Nuits changed hands. That's when La Romanée-Conti got La Tâche, for example, and many, many other vineyards changed hands because people had to sell because of crisis. And that's not the case now. Does it affect the growers that most of us work with, sort of father to son, smaller scale, Bourgogne Rouge, village wines? I don't see why it would.
The inheritance taxes that are levied are based on the value of the land. And when a Grand Cru changes hands for 10 million euros, that affects...
But there may be a difference here, and I'm not an expert. If a vineyard is sold, that is the case. And that is why most vineyard transactions go through the SAFER, who are able to control prices to some degree. In this instance, a domain has been sold. So it's a company, including a landowning company, rather than the actual vineyards themselves. So it may be the case that it doesn't, therefore, change other people's inheritance taxes.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
On a brighter note, there is plenty of affordable Burgundy out there.
I mean, I've always felt that to buy Bourgogne Rouge, Bourgogne Blanc from a good producer in a halfway decent vintage is a wonderful way to enjoy Burgundy without paying a great deal for it. And in fact, in my own cellar in the recent years, as I get older and prices get higher, that's what I've been doing more and more. And I've certainly taken advantage of that for the 2015s.
And the villages that are less expensive, Marcenay and Fissin, for instance, aren't
Yes,
there?
we find that it's amazing how difficult it is to sell the villages which are less famous. Marange and Fontenay at the southern end of the Côte and Marcenay at the northern end. People should be flooding into these appellations, and even in a vintage where everybody wants to buy everything, they have a last to go.